Earth Wars, Chapter 7, Return of the Obi-Wan. During the Clinton War in America in the mid-90s, Obi-Wan Coyote led his band of rebel listeners to defeat gun control in the free and independent state of Florida. While serving the people of Boston, Obi-Wan Coyote was snatched from the airwaves by the Clintonian Empire and has been in seclusion until Princess Pelosi and Hussein the Drain took over the Imperial Senate and came to power, while the economy was tanking from the Fannie and Freddie trillion-dollar theft. Hussein the Drain and the Princess Pelosi have captured the Tidy Bowl Man and his ship and are planning to sink the entire economic system of the planet Earth.
Good afternoon. It's actually high noon here on a Saturday, February 24th. And today, South Carolina's having their primary. Nikki Haley has been able to get at least 5 people to vote for her. Boy, politics sucks. It's something we've had to learn to live with for a while. A long while. Now, I've had some people ask if I could make these shows shorter because I used to be a radio talk show host. I used to do 4 hours of a show. And, of course, in radio, people usually listen to you maybe 15 to 20 minutes per day. There's a certain section of time if they're in their car or whatever to listen to talk radio. And today, we're going to stay within an hour. Actually, we're going to stay to an hour and 15 minutes, 75 minutes. I'm going to make these shows 75 minutes. I'm actually going to go back through and take all the shows we've already done and categorize them by subject and then edit them to 75 minutes. And then we'll probably reload them up into YouTube versus Rumble because they're already on Rumble, most of them. And we just started with the YouTube. And we have to kind of decide how we want to get to people. We are going to stop this type of format because we're going to have the 75-minute videos running for a while. But what we're going to do is we have a second show we had planned a while ago. It's called America's Tavern Table. And it's going to be done as a live stream on Getter. And what's going to happen is we can have 9 other people besides me be on the show at the same time. And what we're going to do is open up discussion with those people interested in running for office, or if people interested in making comments. There's going to be a donation required from them to go to the Alliance of Free States for the time that they're on, because they're getting free time, and either A, they're doing it because they want to do it, or they have a political motive involved. I make lots of notes, I put lots of stuff down, but when I start my show, usually I'll run it through my brain, which used to be very good back 30 years ago when I started this stuff. And so now we're getting a little on the old side. I know I'm going to be 72 in about 3 months. I know people say, "Well, Mike, you don't look 72. And I kind of don't feel 72, and then there's days I do feel 72. I am having some kind of issues from that auto accident back in October, and that's another issue that I'm dealing with. So Thursday, I was actually going to do this show Thursday, and I guess God said, Mike, I'm going to introduce you to a couple of black women, and I'm going to want you to discuss them on the show too, because it's very important what they say. And I've had no problems talking about black women, especially the Democrats hired assassins like Fani Willis, who's turning out to be a crook and a criminal, which is not surprising. And then Letitia James, who will turn out to be a crook and a criminal. She's committing a crime now as the Attorney General. And If you understand the Democratic Party, and I know you don't understand them, but that's the first thing we're going to cover, is we need to establish who the Democratic Party is and why are they the way they are. Because all our problems relate to them. All our problems. If you went into your wallet right now, how much money do you think you'd have? Huh? $5, $10, $100, 120? When I ran for U.S. Senate 30 years ago in '94, I would be they had televised cameras for different candidates, and I would pull out my wallet and I'd go, I'm here to defend your wallet because your wallet's telling you to vote for Wiley. And here's the reasons why. Okay. Now I know I was a bit of a lunatic. Okay. Weren't many people running around going, I'm America first back in 1994, but it's well documented. Even my political campaign stuff, which I was looking at the other day, had me down for my America First plan. We've got, matter of fact, we're going to show you that in this video because, as I say, I do the show and then we put in the video portions to produce a whole show. Because I'm used to presenting documentation for what I'm saying. I don't really want you to believe anything I say. I want you to check everything I say out. So without further ado, because again, we've got basically an hour and 10 minutes to go on this show because I'm keeping it at 75 minutes. Two things. Before we do that, let me start with, I'm going to introduce two people to you. I don't know what race or situation this first person's in, but he sent me an email. So he's probably from Getter, getting the show updates. And of course, I probably put it in the back. Here it is. Okay. So I'm going to read this to you, and then I'm going to play you a video of a black man who was being interviewed, and he was talking about Trump. And he says a lot of very important things about Trump and why most black people should understand that Trump supports black people. He has all his life. Okay. But you got to remember, Democrats are so full of shit that you can't believe they're that full of shit. Okay? You can't believe that Nancy Pelosi lies every time she opens up her mouth. You can't believe that Hillary Clinton lies every time she opens up her mouth. You can't believe that Barack Obama lies every time he opens his mouth. You can't believe that Joe Biden lies every time he opens his mouth. These people are sick. They're also progressives. And that is a key word, progressives. And we're going to be covering that in our discussion today. And it's basically two separate topics because we had this issue. I've been hitting up against the way the Democratic Party uses black women and uses Jewish men. Okay. They hire these people as hitmen. It's easy to watch them you got to watch Congress. Spend some time and watch the videos of Congress and watch the Democrats and how they act and how they attack any witness that comes in for Republican support and how they attack Republicans for attacking or even saying anything ungodly to a Democrat witness who's usually normally full of shit. Okay. They live on the lie. They breathe the lie. But I've tried to present who they really are to you. And I've got some documentation here where I'm going to do that. But first, I'm going to read what this gentleman wrote to me in an email. And then I'm going to play the video of this black man who's was on YouTube. And I happened to catch him listening to what he said. And I says, I have to present this guy. Because I have to present what the American people truly are feeling. because the media that we have doesn't tell us shit. Okay. And it's okay because our new media is basically going to make, I don't think at some point in time people will be reading the New York Times anymore, except for those people that support criminal activity. Same thing with the Washington Post. These organizations have a tremendous history of lying to the American people. And I think now we recognize the fact that the Democrats are full of shit. And I think we all realize now that January 6th was a total fraud and a fake for the same reason why the 2020 election was a fraud and a fake. However, we have 1.3 million dead Americans because of COVID. 1 million of them were elderly, and the reason why they wanted to kill off the elderly was because that would leave about $250 billion in Social Security for them to be able to steal and use for the immigrants, the new blacks. Okay, they're the new plantation blacks. All right. The problem that the Democrats have, and the Democrats kind of knew it, that with this new media, they weren't going to be able to control the truth. And blacks are going to start figuring out shit that they should have figured out before, but they didn't have somebody like Donald Trump to show them the way. And then have somebody like Biden show them how to shove themselves down the toilet and let them flush themselves with the Democrats. And that's coming, and we're going to show that to you today because there's a lot of shit that's full of shit and scam. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover it pretty quick. So I need to get going because I have a tendency to go, you know. So I'm not going to mention this gentleman's name. He writes, everything is upside down and improper. We have no proper functioning government, no proper oversight, no accountability. Yes, this country as we knew it is done. It is time to take control of our God-given rights, adhere to our Constitution and Bill of Rights. If there is an election, it will not be as per the norm. I believe there is no amount of cheating that can secure victory for evil. Who knows what more we have to endure the next 8 months? People will begin to die more frequently than current. I won't get into my beliefs on that topic. No one, very few, will be able to accept that until it occurs, it is too late. The military will have to get involved in there if there is to be any chance of reckoning. The WHO/UN are likely on our soil already, just waiting for marching orders. Chaos, and by the way, those marching orders are actually going to come from Beijing. Because Beijing are global communist fascists, and the World Health Organization, the European monarchies are fascists. They've merged together. They're what I call the global fascist empire. Just like in Star Wars, you have the Republic and you have the Empire. And that's why this show starts off with a little music I did together on a show way back when with Obama and Pelosi and the Tiny Bowl Man. I was always ahead of the game on this stuff. I don't know why. I think the Lord gives me hints as to what's going to happen. But in that music that you've already heard, because you're watching this now, it says the Princess Pelosi and Hussein the Drain. I call him Hussein the Drain because his middle name was Hussein, and we weren't supposed to speak his name when the idiot from Republican Party, what's his name, was running in 2008. No, don't mention his name, Hussein. You'll think he's a Muslim. But I call him Hussein the Drain because his job is to drain the country down the toilet. And I say Princess Pelosi and Hussein the Drain have captured the Tiny Bowl Man, and his job is to flush America down the toilet. Well, it turns out Joe Biden is the Tiny Bowl Man. And in 3 years, he's flushed the country right down the toilet. I nailed this one. Okay, I nailed this one. I've actually nailed a lot of these things. But of course, when you haven't seen the data, you don't know how my mind thinks, so I have to provide you with the data. So Let me finish with this gentleman. Chaos and fear are tools of the devil. It is the only and best weapon. Folks need to understand democracy is not what we are. We are a republic. I say that all the time. Governed by our Constitution, one nation under God, our democratic process are ours, so-called elected by the people. Our democratic process are our so-called elected people, reps and senators. Their democracy is what our problem is. They do not adhere to the Constitution. We have every right as guided by our Constitution to forcibly replace these people. Once things get to the point of panic, through finally realizing there is no other way to proceed, folks had better turn to faith in their Creator. There will be no other chance to survive. God never loses. God wins always. If I die, I still win. Good luck. God bless. I'm going to guess this guy's a Christian. Jewish people don't talk like this. But we're on the same wavelength. Remember, Judeo, Jesus was a Jew. Okay, Christians are an offshoot of the Jewish religion, and that's why when we say we're a Judeo-Christian nation, it's because we come from the same cloth. We just have a belief as to who we should follow, or we should lead God directly, or we should lead through Jesus. Okay, to me, it doesn't matter. It's in your heart. If God's in your heart, we're all set. So I'm going to then let this gentleman be the person to introduce this part. Control the money, control the people. What is a scam and what's not a scam? Okay, now I didn't write the Bible down here because the Bible is a book this thick, but we already know through excavations in Israel, not Palestine, Israel, that these things did occur, especially when they were exposed about issues of fighting, groups of people fighting or things. So what's not a scam? Well, the Ten Commandments is not a scam. Okay, it's not a scam. The Declaration of Independence is not a scam. The Constitution of the United States is not a scam. We have this thing called the 14th Amendment. And we see all these, Democrats are amazing. The Democrats are like, look at this, don't look at that, look at this, don't look at that, no, don't look at that, no, just look at this, okay? Keep your eye on the ball. They're magicians. They make the truth go away, and they make their lies to be considered to be the truth. So the 14th Amendment has this Section 3 that you've heard about. The progressives in Colorado have gotten to the belief that they can take Trump off the ballot because he violated Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which of course he didn't, because number one, it doesn't discuss or attune to the President of the United States. and second, he was never found and charged for insurrection, so why the hell are they bringing it up? The Democrats are a scam. Their whole organization is a scam. They have scammed the American people since the Civil War. And I'm going to point that out to you. They've done this since the Civil War. That's why I refer to them as Confederate Democrats, because their shit began in the Confederacy, and we're going to go to that. What is a scam? The Internal Revenue Code is a scam. I should know. I taught federal taxation at Jones College in Florida. I taught federal taxation. I had a book this thick. It was a joke. Half of it made no sense at all. But what it does tell you is, if they need 7,000 pages to equate to one line in the Constitution, the 16th Amendment, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. Insurance regulations, state control. I'm dealing with an issue now about an auto accident. And what they're saying is, well, the state legislatures have set up a statute. And the statute says that you have to be injured to a certain point to be able to get payment for suffering, pain and suffering. And I thought to myself, are you trying to tell me nobody has yet challenged that stooge shit? I know the insurance companies control Florida quite a bit. We've seen it. Okay. My major inflation for the last 2 years has been my association fee going up $40 a month per year, 2 years in a row, all because of insurance. Okay. The insurance companies take the money and they control the people with it. They control their representatives. In Massachusetts, the people in Massachusetts who are very patriotic, they may be Democrats, but they're very pro-American. You can't grow up in Boston like I did and not be patriotic. However, things do change out. Massachusetts, the people decided they didn't want the illegal and unconstitutional seatbelt law. He says, no, we don't want the seatbelt law. We want to be free. Okay, the seatbelt law is like a violation of the Third Amendment. Okay, it's like stationing the police or the government in your car. Make sure you have your seatbelt on, or you're going to get penalized and ticketed. And I always tell the story of the time I got pulled over, and I got a ticket for not wearing my seatbelt. And so I go to court because I was going to fight it. And there were like 6 people in front of me. One guy ran over like 2 people. Okay, get away. This person hit in the car. Okay, all these 6 people committed shit that was so worse than me, but they all were found not guilty. I get up and it goes, he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Bam, you're guilty. What was I guilty of? Challenging the authority of the government. The government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Uh-huh. So, what happened was, the people in Massachusetts said, F the seatbelt law, we're getting rid of it. We're the people, okay? And they said, okay, you have to put together a ballot thing and get it voted on, and it got thrown right out the door. What was amazing was 2 years later, the seatbelt law was reinstituted as a law in Massachusetts. After all the citizens of Massachusetts say, we don't want it, get it out of here. But the insurance company says, you know what? We're not going to insure anybody if you don't have the seatbelt law. And why? What is the purpose of the seatbelt law? Is it to protect people in their cars? Hell no. That's not the purpose of the seatbelt law. The seatbelt law is to protect the insurance companies. Because what happens is, and I found this out sitting in a law library looking some stuff up, and I came across it, and I started reading through it. Holy shit. So it was a General Motors issue. And evidently, this guy gets run over by a tractor trailer or something, and his whole car is demolished and stuff. And the family was suing the company that ran him over and this and that. And well, what happened was they ruled that, well, since he wasn't wearing his seatbelt, you can't pay these people $5 million for his death. You can only pay them $27.50. Something ridiculous. The seatbelt law saves insurance companies money. That's what it's for. And so the insurance companies in Massachusetts said, hey, tell you what, okay, we're going to put it back in because then the insurance companies are going to charge us all this money. We can't do that. We have to do what the insurance companies say, not what the people say. Insurance regulations, state control, that's a fraud. It's a fraud. My daughter moves up to Massachusetts. I decided we were going to get her a different car because the car she had was a Florida car, and I wanted her something that was going to be better for snow and stuff like that. So we bought her a Mitsubishi. And unfortunately, in Massachusetts, you can't get life accident and health insurance. Why, I don't know. But they kind of outlawed that. But the interesting part was the insurance on my daughter's car, which was a 2017 Mitsubishi, was $1,500 for 6 months. $1,500 for 6 months. Okay. And what is it now that she's moved back to Florida? And the car insurance in Florida is $600. We saved $1,000 over a 6-month period between the insurance in Massachusetts and the insurance in Florida. Who creates that difference? Criminal Democrats. Insurance regulations are a scam. They are. The Congress of the United States is a scam. They don't represent us. They represent the people that put money in their pockets for donations. That's who they represent. Remember, more crimes are committed every year by the Congress of the United States than anybody else. And if that Congress is in the hands of the Democrats, we're in deep shit. The census, tax return. I did a brief part in the last show we did because I found this little thing I did on the census. Matter of fact, we made it a video and it's up on YouTube. The census is a scam. The census has been a scam. The reason why there was a census is because there was no tax returns. Why were there no tax returns? Because there was no tax. If the founding fathers wanted us to be taxed on our income, they would have given it to us. They didn't. They didn't want us to be taxed. Everything was supposed to be duties and tariffs and stuff like that. But the Democrats don't like tariffs. Why? Because that affects their global masters. Okay, I'm going to read this to you. The war efforts were costing the new nation dearly. Nevertheless, heeded the pleas of wealthy plantation owners, I guess that gives it away. The war efforts were costing the new nation dearly. Nevertheless, the Confederate Congress, Confederates are Democrats. Democrats are Confederates. They have never changed. They have never changed. They hated blacks then, they hate blacks now, and that's what's boiling over, and that's the second part of this show. Wasn't good. I was going to do a show just on this, and then I saw this and I went, there we go. I'm making a major positional change in my tactics, and we're going to get to that. The war efforts were causing the new nation dearly. Nevertheless, the Confederate Congress heeded the pleas of wealthy plantation owners and refused to place a tax on slaves or cotton, despite the Confederacy's desperate need for the revenue that such a tax would have raised. Instead, the Confederacy drafted a taxation plan that kept the Southern elite happy, but in no way met the needs of the war. The government also resorted to printing immense amounts of paper money, which quickly led to runaway inflation that the Democrats always cause. Food prices soared and the poor, while Southerners faced starvation. In April 1863, thousands of hungry people rioted in Richmond, Virginia. Many of the rioters were mothers who could not feed their children. The riot ended when President Jefferson Davis of the Confederacy threatened to have Confederate forces open fire on the mothers. Sounds like Democrats, huh? They've never changed. They've always been for the wealthy and against the poor. So now I'm going to play for you this video of this black gentleman who's explaining about the issues with Trump and why it's natural for black people to be for Trump, and then we'll get into that. So you're going to see the video now. I'm going to count to 5 seconds, and then it'll be edited in, and then I'll start my other thing.
The critics say that what did Trump ever do for black folks? Biden acknowledged the Tulsa massacre. He spoke out against white supremacy. Why didn't Trump do these things?
Why do we need a white president to acknowledge something that we know happened in our history? Why do we need their acknowledgement, right? Why do we want to be validated by these white people? Well, the validation, the acknowledgement. President Trump gave us opportunity zones in our communities right throughout America. President Trump signed a historical criminal justice reform. They got a lot of people coming home now, like my partner Tyrone Weatherall. President Trump signed that criminal justice reform. President Trump made it possible for the PPP money, the EDD money, the SBA money, all that money to be out here. Folks with Section A who ain't never been able to get a small business loan have been able to get it under President Trump. Now look what you're getting under President Biden. Ain't no money out here. President Trump was bringing jobs back. Comeback job from China. Bring the steel back from Mexico. Say, man, close down that cotton plant in Mexico and send it over there to Haiti. Let it gild and start. So you see what I'm saying? So he was fucking with. So let me say this to the critics. Where were Donald Trump critics in the 1980s when he was hanging out with all the black celebrities, homie? Where were those critics in the 1990s when
Tyson, Don King.
Man, Jay-Z, man, they've been rapping about Trump. They've been putting him in songs. We've been indoctrinated to love Trump from the rappers, homie. He's in over 360-something rap songs, homie. That's documented on ABC. Nas, Jeezy, Jay-Z, too. Man, we have praised the man. Michael Jackson with him. Evander Holyfield, homie, Muhammad Ali. Man, we with all the players. They partied together. They together. And plus we've been admiring this man and having admiration for Trump all of our lives. So why now am I being told that he's racist when I grew up believing that we were supposed to embrace him?
Okay, now that you've seen that. So I forgot to wear my watch, so I have to keep track of time here. I've already done a show. It's already up online, but I gotta jump to this because I want to stay in. I want to stay in order of this. So the Democrats gave us the income tax, them and progressive Republicans. The progressives gave us the income tax. The progressives were also Democrat and Republican, and they were also presidents. Roosevelt, the first Roosevelt, the second Roosevelt, and Woodrow Wilson. And so what happens is, there was a tax in 1863. The Confederates came up with a tax, and the Republicans came up with a tax because they needed to tax the people to pay for the war effort. Taxes are required to go to war. And that tax has to be on the people. And why? Because the people are in this country as prisoners. We're tax prisoners. Tariffs are no good because tariffs mean you're going to try to collect money from someone who doesn't live in the country, someone you don't have control of. You have to have control. You need taxes. You need to steal money from the people. That's what the tax code is all about. And it's time it got shit canned. The original part of this show was going to be called the America First Plan, I being probably the first America First candidate in American history in 1994. So, America's going to war. We don't know it yet, but Woodrow Wilson does. You know, Woodrow Wilson was he was a pacifist. He didn't want us to go to war. He believed he didn't want to go to war. So, now there's a line in one of these things I was reading. I don't have it here. It was about the Supreme Court. I checked up on the Supreme Court because the Supreme Court ruled, which I still can't believe, but the Supreme Court ruled that the 16th Amendment was constitutionally legal. And they said the reason why it was legal was because we've had taxes before. They said we've always had an income tax. Really? Are you trying to tell me there was an income tax before 1863, but we didn't know it? So I checked up on the Supreme Court, and there was about, I think it was like a 6-3 Republican-Democrat thing. The Democrats were from the South. But I guess it proved a point that if you have to steal money from the American people, go in front of the courts. The courts know how to steal money from people. Don't they, New York? Huh? Huh? Crime and punishment. We don't commit the crimes, but we get the punishment. So the Revenue Act of 1913 was passed. It lowered, this is what pisses me off. The Revenue Act of 1913 lowered average tariffs from 40% to 26%. It also established a 1% tax on income above $3,000 per year. The tax affected approximately 3% of the population.
Oh, we taxed the wealthy, yeah. Yeah, it really killed them too, I'm sure.
That also got to a point where it got up to your incomes had to be over $5,000 per year. The Revenue Act of 1913 marked an important shift in federal revenue policy as government revenue would increasingly rely on income taxes rather than tariffs.
Oh, well, you see.
This is Democrats now. Democrats had long seen high tariff rates as equivalent to unfair taxes on the consumers. Follow me here. We're Democrats. Well, not me, but Democrats are saying that the tariffs are unfair on the consumers. Now, is it unfair for those wealthy people who have companies that are importing the product and now they have to pay more for the product? Now they don't, they can pay less. And now that there's this income tax plan set up, we save the people in New York City and people in San Francisco, New York, California. Okay, I believe I made notes showing that the tax plan would have been paid out if taxes were done based on apportionment, which they're supposed to be. I think California would pay like $951 billion of it, and New York would be like 530 billion as their share, because the idea was if there was going to be a tax, it had to be apportioned. There's this concept. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It was created by a couple of cavemen somewhere before dinosaurs disappeared. It's called taxation without representation. I know, you all remember Mel Gibson saying that in the what was the name of that movie? Rebellion, the Rebel, the Patriot. The Patriot. I'm from New England. How can I forget the word patriot? Here's what we have. I'm gonna, I know I can go 5 hours on this stuff. The Revenue Act was because Woodrow Wilson was going to take us into war, into World War I. Of course, we didn't know he was going to do that, but he knew it. The people who he worked for knew it because they're global scum. And the global scum were dictating what had to be done. Okay? So now let's just look at this here for a second. America enters World War I. At the outbreak of fighting in 1940, the United States remained on the sidelines, adopting the policy of neutrality favored by President Woodrow Wilson. Bullshit! While continuing to engage in commerce and shipping with European countries on both sides of the conflict, we had a problem. In 1913, Germany declared the waters surrounding the British Isles to be a war zone. It warned everybody, and German U-boats sunk several commercial and passenger vehicles, including vessels, including some U.S. ships. Okay. And then I don't have the second page, but we have the Lusitania. The Lusitania got sunk in, I believe it was, here it is. Widespread protest over the sinking by U-boat of the British Ocean liner Lusitania, traveling from New York to Liverpool, England, with hundreds of American passengers on board. Okay. Now these American passengers that were on board the Lusitania, they were poor, and they lived in the inner cities. But the government decided to send them to England on an all expenses paid trip. In other words, if you kill wealthy people, we're going to have to do something about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to send 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 poor white guys and black guys to go over and get killed in your war because you killed 150 wealthy people. How come we never attacked the country that owned that iceberg that sunk the Titanic? We didn't attack them. I know I'm taking a certain tact at this, but you got to remember, the wealthy are God's creatures. We are scum. That's what the Democrats believe. Okay? That's what the Democrats believe. Here, what else do the Democrats believe? Oh, let's see. In 2023, the Democrats believed that it was more important to send $44 billion in international assistance programs and only spend $24 billion on NASA. Now, this phenomena changed when Hussein the Drain became in power. In the past, NASA always got more money than foreign aid. So NASA would get like $18 billion and foreign aid would be like about 11. And then Obama came in, and Obama's job was to steal as much money from the American people, destroy the country as best he could. They did a great job. And then in 24, they says, oh no, we're going to cut it back. We're going to cut it back $8 billion and only give $36 billion to foreign aid, but we'll give NASA $26 billion because we have some satellites to keep track of. We're not allowed to have our own space program. We're not allowed to have our own space station. Why is that? Why is it more important when Democrats are in power to send money overseas to other countries than to us? Because they're progressives. They're global progressive scum. And that's the way they think, and that's the way they act. And that's why this tax form got shoved up our ass. And even some of the guys in the Supreme Court were saying, well, we've always had income taxes. They must have been getting old. Okay. I crossed over the Rubicon a while back when it occurred to me. I'm going to tell you what happened. We got we're running out of time. We're going real. I was doing my analysis on the budget and stuff, and I was looking at what the federal budget was from 1909 all the way to now, and what it was that they spent money on. And I noticed that when there were Democrats in Congress and in the White House, the government spent more money than they were taking in, okay, especially during World War I. Then the Republicans came in, and for 8 years, 9 years, it was 2020 to 2028, 29, they had no budget deficits whatsoever. And actually, interest rates would be around half a point because the government didn't have any debt. The government didn't have any debt. There was not a lot of debt. But the stock market was doing really good. The stock market went from like 60 to 380 over an 8-year period. And there was something else going on. And this kind of bothered me because I was looking into this and I came across, and you'll see in the beginning of the show and actually I'll flash it on the article about the golden age of Black entrepreneurship. What maybe a lot of people don't realize is that, anyways, before I get back to that, to me, there's had to be something wrong. The Depression, I think, was fixed. Because I'm looking at everything financially and I'm saying, wait a minute here, wait a minute. There's something not right here. So turns out, so I'm looking through it, I'm doing you just go on the internet, type in a question and shit comes up. You can't believe what's on there. And I come across this article about the golden age of Black business. I'm like, what? 1900 to 1930. Geez, why did it end in 1930? Could it have been the Great Depression? Could that have been it? So for 30 years, because of the Southern codes against blacks, don't mind me, my mind doesn't carry all the data it used to all the time. It'll come in. So I'm reading this stuff and I'm going, wait a minute. Black businesses began to organize and developed in the cities up in the north, and they went from 1900 to 1930, and they built something like, I think it was like around 1913, 1914, just before the income tax started getting whacked into people. I think they went from 8,000 black businesses to like 14,000 black businesses. Black entrepreneurialism was flourishing, but the Democrats weren't involved. Now, there's another kind of group of Democrats called Confederates, called progressives, and these bunch of assholes also are into eugenics. Yeah? Hey, Mike, how'd you make that connection? Oh, it's quite simple. I was following about the Great Depression. They found this guy, Irving Fisher. Fisher was perhaps the first celebrity economist, but his reputation during his lifetime was irreparably harmed by his public statements. Just 9 days before the Wall Street crash of 1929, that the stock market had reached a permanently high plateau. Who was Irving Fisher? He was an American economist, statistician, inventor, eugenicist. That means black people are not capable of doing anything except living in caves. That's what a eugenicist thinks. And he was a progressive social campaigner. He was a progressive. And what was interesting was eugenics was growing big and strong the same time the progressive movement was. Really? Is it possible that the eugenics gang, who were evidently everywhere, and we were trying to, maybe we shouldn't have black people, maybe we should think like Joe Biden, okay? Remember Joe Biden? The man who calls everybody that's white a racist that's not a Democrat, especially Trump. What's going on here? We have black people building businesses, growing an industry, and we, the Democrats, are not involved in it. Well, wait a minute. They can't really be doing it on their own because they're black people. See, black people can't think. Weren't you always told that? Huh? Wasn't that shit always hidden from us that they actually were very smart black people? We've seen movies of what they've done, huh? How about the Tuskegee? Now you know why Black History Month is only 28 days. This year it's 29. Okay, they gave it a month, and of course they gave it to the shortest month ever, and say, okay, you can talk about Black history, but it's got to be within this month. You can't do it anyplace else. That's a travesty. That's why I'm against Black history. Even though 30 years ago, when I was doing a radio show in February of 1993, I did set up a separate hour on Friday evenings. My show was from 7 to 10, and we did an hour at about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and it was called Patriots of Color, and we covered people. That's how we found out all about the Buffalo Soldiers, because the guy that wrote the book, the first one, we had on our show. I was like, how come I never knew of this stuff? How come we don't know how much Black history is actually American history? And then maybe we'd realize you shouldn't have a Black History Month. Black history is American history. It happened all the time. You name the wars. And all the way from the Revolutionary War, there are a lot of blacks that fought in the Revolutionary War, and you were told that stuff. So the black people are making these progressive eugenics look pretty bad. So we got to stop it. How do you stop? And how do you stop an economic blast off? The Dow's gone from 60 to 380 in 7-8 years. You've got the black cities, the inner cities and the urban areas. They're building business and their insurance and this and that. They've got it all going. They're making everything great. You know, there was a comment the other day on TV. A black woman was saying that in the 30s, you never had to worry about black crime in the black centers, the ghettos, the black communities. Because back then there wasn't crime because everybody was making money doing something. That's why it had to end. It had to end for the progressives. So to me, that says, okay, Mike, well, that's kind of a reason to have the Great Depression, okay? And then, of course, they try to blame it on the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, saying, oh, that's what did it, yeah. After the Wall Street crash in 1929, where the Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped from 381 to 198 over the course of 2 months, holy shit. That is also called a correction because the bull market began at 60. It's still 3 times what it began. That's not a crash. That's just a correction. The stock market rose in early 1930s with the Dow returning to 294.
Hey, Mike, you must have been right.
And that was in April 1930. But what was the problem? Black people are making money. Black people are enjoying life. They're making something of themselves. They're building financial strength and empire. And the Democrats, they're not in power. The Democrats aren't in the White House. They're not in the Senate. They're not leading the House. Republicans are running everything, and everything's fine and wonderful. You don't need Democrats, do you? Well, you do need them if you want to have a depression. And again, I always said that, I'm just trying to find it here. Okay. I always said that I smelled a rat. And the rat is called the Federal Reserve. The Great Depression, the longest and deepest downturn in the history of the United States and the modern industrial economy, lasted more than a decade between 1929 and 1941. Regarding the Great Depression, we did it. We're very sorry. We won't do it again. Who's that taking blame for the Great Depression? Why, that's Ben Bernanke, November 8th, 2002, in a speech given at a conference to honor Milton Friedman. In 2002, Ben Bernanke, then a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, acknowledged publicly what economists have long believed, but kept it quiet. The Federal Reserve's mistakes contributed to the worst economic disaster in American history. So what you're saying is the Great Depression was man-made for a reason. I've already done a show on this before. You can go look for that show where I've covered this. But this is part of the issue of this whole thing. Because I'm trying to explain to you what the scam is. The scam is created by crimes committed by the Democrats, the progressives, and their buddy progressive Republicans who passed this thing together. But what is not a scam is the Ten Commandments, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. Now, the 17th Amendment, okay, that takes away the right of the states to have the Senate represent them. That's how this whole thing was put together. But these assholes said, well, no, we need to have, the Senate needs to be elected by wealthy people with money. And right now, the state legislators they're picking new senators every 6 years. So the lifespan of a senator is 6 years. We need him to have more. So who is the longest standing senator in U.S. history? He's a Democrat from West Virginia. His name's Robert Byrd. And what was his job before he became a senator? He was the Kleagle for the KKK. Got ya. Look it up. You got this halfwit, Patty Murray. She's a gym teacher. Have you ever listened to her talk? It's like they must feed it into her. Okay? Now you know why they let Fetterman go into the Senate without half a brain or something. Because they don't need people to think. They need people to do. Don't think, just do. Don't think, just do. Patty Murray's been there for 30 years. 30 years. She just got reelected for a 6th time. So I'm not going to get to what I'm going to get to because it's already 12:51. That means I've only got 24 minutes to go. So I'm gonna have to do a separate section on it. We're gonna do this quick here. Sanctuary states. There's 11 sanctuary states. Evidently, these states, all run by Democrats, for some reason, want to prepare to have millions of migrants take over the cities. Why? Well, we know why. They've been included in the census illegally for years because then the government can send more money to the blue zones because they have immigrants that they live there, and then they fill out the census with them in there. And I already did a little brief 3-minute show on it. But here's let's see, what's it say? It's total Department of Justice funding awarded. Okay. $692 billion went out to the blue zones so they could have illegal immigrants come in. We had the Cuban boat lift. That was when Carter was president, and we've had all this shit happen to all these Democrat presidents. Why do Democrats want to eliminate black people from being anything to them? Because what's going on in the black community? Okay. 2021 ends as Chicago's deadliest year in a quarter century. Who gives a shit about black people, huh? You ever seen a problem? You ever hear of gun control when 7 black people are shot every weekend in Chicago? No. You got some white guy shoots up some people. Hey, it's time for gun control. Well, we don't want to have gun control because black people need to have guns so they can kill other black people. It's totally insane. Black on black homicide, a psychological, political perspective. More black people kill black people in the country. Where it's most dangerous to be black in America. Black Americans make up 13.6% of the U.S. population. They make up 80% of the television commercial population. And 54% of the victims of murder and non-negligent manslaughter, aka homicide. Why? Because it's supposed to be that way. Okay? If you ever understood how to determine what a fix is, a fix occurs when you have more Democrats in government than Republicans. And they get away with everything they want to get away with. So, in my opinion, and I've done a show on this, it's called The Great Secession, The Great Divorce, and it's about the nation having to split. If you watch, you got to watch Congress. You got to watch these living pieces of shit known as Democrats. I used to be a Democrat. I grew up in a Democrat family, okay? But it was different then. Those were real Democrats. These people now are progressive lunatics. The largest caucus in the Congress is the Progressive Caucus. It's like about 110 people. They're all Democrats. Okay, that's why they didn't vote for protecting the border, because all the Democrats are like, even the black Democrats are like going,
Yeah, well, I'm black, but I had to sign the paperwork saying I would forget that I was black. And I'm going to support whatever the Democrats want me to do, because I'm for the good of the party.
the good of the party. Isn't that a communist Russian deal? So we got 20 minutes to go. I promised I'd make these 75 minutes, and that's what this is going to be. So I'm changing my tune, and that's why this show was different from where I was going to start on Thursday, because I was going to cover these issues more, but I've covered enough. You got the gist of it. You can go back to look through all our shows on Rumble and YouTube, and you'll see there which ones are talking about secession and the. Anyways, I think that the Democratic Party has made a horrible military, and I say military because they're at war with us. They made a horrible military decision, and that was not to protect the border. And so what happened was a Democratic president with a Democratic Congress let 7.3 million criminals into the country, destroying everything, but you're paying them. You're giving them $5,000 gift cards. Hey, here's a free cell phone. Here's money so you can get a new winter coat because it's cold in Chicago. And we're going to shove you people right up the ass, all the black people in Chicago, who we've been neglecting for years. And now it's starting to get to the point where a lot of black people are now starting to say, well, fuck that shit. And I was so glad to see it, because I was getting a little tired of watching black women like Corrine Jereen-Pierre, whatever the hell her name is, and Letitia James and Fani Willis pull shit off on the American people and attack Trump and attack the American people when they shouldn't be. But those people don't really know black history. That's why we only keep it 28 days. If these people knew that blacks fought the Revolutionary War, the first people killed was I'm sorry, any other time I'm gonna pop his name right out. He was killed on March 5th, 1770. Black man at the Boston Massacre. You had Samuel Poor, who was I believe he was a colonel in the Revolutionary Army, and he fought at Bunker Hill, and he was still standing with his sword in his hand because they ran out of ammunition because the British came at him wave after wave after wave. Okay? There's so much history that these Democrats, these black Democrats, don't really understand that. They're ignorant as shit. Okay? They don't know about the 54th Massachusetts. There was a movie called Glory about that. They don't understand their own history because they've been poisoned by the Democrats to believe that they're victims. Yeah, they are victims of Democrats. But how could all these other black people come out and do wonderful things? The Tuskegee Airmen, holy shit. Remember the first time you saw that movie and you're like, what? You're kidding me, right? Holy shit. Oh, all these guys were college graduates with an average of like 95% in their grades. Well, it can't be. They must be some other black people. So we're going to show you 2 black women in Chicago. And what caught my eye was this first black woman who's sending some shit over to the mayor of Chicago, who's an idiot Democrat progressive scumbag. Yeah, he's black, but he's... Remember, skin color doesn't fucking matter. It's what's up here and what's in here that counts. And that's what's going to get rid of the Democrats are going to fail. They're going down the toilet. And they're probably going down the toilet. But the Republicans need to get off their ass and get into Chicago and get in New York and stir the pot and help these people out. Because they need help. They can't fight the Democratic monster machine on their own. And that's what I'm going to start getting involved in over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to start working some political shit and see if I can start turning up the flames, because Trump needs to go to New York and Trump needs to go to Chicago. I know in 2016 he was going to go to Chicago and they were afraid he was going to be killed. Things are going zooey. So that may be holding up going to Chicago, New York, because they may not be able to feel that they can protect him. But they got to do something. They have to address the situation, because now you have a group of people who've had enough. They're watching these illegal immigrant scum. And I'm calling them scum because most of them are criminals. There are some good people that wanted to come into the country. Those people should have been able to come into the country, but not these lunatics. They're just flowing in. We already did a show on this on the Chinese and the Chinese going in California. And now you're hearing it on the news. After I did the show, all of a sudden, yeah, they got all these Chinese people coming from California. And Mike had this show where he showed the video that made from China where how people are supposed to go. And he made the comment, hey, the guy's going to California, not going to Texas. What's the deal? What's the deal? Because California's all ready to be taken over by the Manchurians. So, there's a story, and it's about a revolution. Jews invented guerrilla war fighting, and the first major one was 136 BC, when the Syrians were telling them, hey, you can't be Jews anymore. The hell with that shit. You got to build idols and do that. Like, hey, forget this God thing. Well, so this one guy, Mattathias, they were giving him shit, and he's like me. But I didn't have a sword like he did. They get this other Jew to build this idol in front of him. He says, okay, this guy will do it. Well, that was it. He said, fuck this shit in Hebrew or whatever language, Aramean, I guess it was that they spoke. He pulls out his sword, stabs the Jew to death. Pulls out the sword. He raises it to the sky and says, all who follow God, follow me. You're going to watch a black woman standing in Chicago telling the mayor what's going to go on, and she raises her hand like this. And I just, bam, I made the connection. Okay, God's talked to her. Yep, God's chosen that woman to lead. And I'm going to work on trying to help her and everything going on in Chicago. Because that would be a great scenario. And it also may eliminate the secession requirements to get rid of all these Democrats that are in power. Because if we can recapture Chicago and turn all these black people into Republicans, Chicago falls to the Republicans. You won't have asshole, overweight, fat governors spending all the money and shitting on you all over the place. Pritzker, drag him behind a car. So let's see, what do we got? We got I've got 12 more minutes to talk. Then you're going to see a video of another woman who's on TV with Harris Faulkner. She's beautiful. And she explains what's going on about Chicago and how they're going to become Republicans and this, that. And so I'm watching this, I'm going, holy shit, we got it. We got it. We just got to get
those assholes in Washington that, they love sitting in their office. Hey, I'm a Republican, yeah.
Get off your ass and get to work. See, I was one of the first America First people. I don't think anybody else was America First when I was in 1994. But it was a little different because I was a Democrat then. I'm the son and grandson of Teamsters. I grew up in a union house. One of my favorite speeches took me 60 seconds. I'd walk into a union hall, give this speech for 60 seconds, and I'd have a standing ovation going. And I said it very simple. My name is Mike Wiley. I'm the son and grandson of Teamsters. I grew up in a union house. A union job fed me. A union job clothed me. And a union job put a roof over my head. Don't tell me I don't know the value of a good union job. Bam! The place would go nuts. Of course, the people in Washington and the White House, they were going nuts. Especially the blonde woman that flies around on her broom, and she wasn't in the TV show Bewitched. But she is a witch. Oh, God, that got them going. That's what we need to do. So right now, I'm pulling back on the secession part because I think strategically we can take New York City and we can take Chicago. I don't know about Detroit, okay? But I would like to see the people in Detroit who were involved in the election scandal of 2020 come out and acknowledge it. Okay, come out and say, look, we were put in a situation, we needed money. The Democrats came to us and said they would pay us if we did this. Basically what they said was, it's okay, you're not violating the law by not making sure that the signatures matched, okay? Because the state of Michigan, the state of Pennsylvania, the state of Georgia, and the state of Wisconsin was going to go, hey, you can go ahead and you don't have to check them. Just take them. They're okay. They're okay. Believe us, they're okay. Sure, a lot of those people are dead, missing, moved to another state, but you don't have to check the signatures. We know the signatures aren't going to match. They're fake ballots. 15 million of them. If we can get those people to come forward and give them immunity to testify against the people that were, like the GBI, I forget the guy's name, Gordon Bell Industries. He was the black guy on the black business that was hiring all these black people to go out and commit election fraud. Okay, and that's what happened in 2020. The election was stolen. Everybody knew that. That was the reason for January 6th, because Princess Pelosi knew that there was six rejections to the certification for Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. And at least 3 or 4 of them were going to get thrown out because they had state legislatures that were Republican. And the Constitution states the manner of how the elections are done are determined by the state legislators. The state legislators didn't approve of the mail-in ballots, and they didn't approve of not checking verification. That made the election illegal. It's still illegal today, except the Democrats have stolen $7 trillion from us in those 3 years, and they've popped in 10 million people to replace the black people in Chicago who are evidently going to leave and go someplace else where they don't know. I don't think they care. Their job is shoving these people up our ass. It's hard to understand who the Democrats are. But as I told you, the Democrats are Confederates. Confederate Democrats. Now, that's their basis. You know, you could be a Democrat, like a Labor Democrat, like my family was. I mean, I grew up in a Democrat house, but that's because they thought that the Democrats were labor oriented, and there was a good section of Democrats in the Rust Belts that were union oriented and were for workers, the people that worked hard, truck drivers. I mean. But as this says, the war efforts were costly to the new nation, but they want to make the Southern elite that had slaves, but we keep them happy. Yeah, We want to keep them happy, and we'll shoot all the poor people that are starving, because what else do you do with poor people? Huh? So, I'm going to show you these two videos back to back of the two black women in Chicago who I'm going to try to get a hold of, try to see what I can do to help them build this revolution now and get things up and running. It's not that I don't trust Republicans to sit back and go, hey, look at this. Remember, Republicans aren't labor-oriented. Democrats are. But enough Democrats have left the Democratic Party to come over, and that's the labor. The GOP is the new Labor Party. Labor is America first, because we're putting American labor first, not Chinese labor first. Get it? America first. The word in the middle is labor. We're putting American labor first. We're putting American labor ahead of Chinese labor. We want to build products in the United States. Okay? That's why you need high tariffs. Otherwise, this shit's going to flow in from all these other countries. Democrats don't care about that because they don't care about labor. They only want you to believe they do. Remember, as long as there could be 5,000 people in the Teamster Union, and they could have 4,997 of them not voting for them, as long as you get the three top people, they don't give a shit. When I ran for U.S. Senate, I had just finished a speech in Jacksonville, Florida. And I was walking from the podium after my 5-minute speech, going down to the end and then walking out the door. And as I was getting to the end, there were all these union guys there with these union jackets for Southern Bell. One guy came out and he goes, Mike, don't worry, you got this. There's 4,000 of us. Yeah, we all own guns, we all own trucks, and we all hate Hillary. That's why I was going to win the U.S. Senate race, because 1 million Democrats weren't going to be voting for Connie Mack because they own guns, they own pickup trucks, and they were labor people. They were Wiley people. There's Wiley Democrats in Chicago. There's Wiley Democrats in New York. Go out and find them and get them working in the right direction. That's what they need help with. Okay? Because people that have never had power don't know to have power. But as this woman raised her hand in Chicago, I picked right up on that. Raising your hand is like raising your hand in school. Remember when we had to raise our hand if we wanted attention? And when we raise our hand without needing attention, means we're making a point. We're pointing to God. We're letting him know we're going to fight the battle. We know you want us. We're there for it. Let's go. Okay. Spread this video around. It's going to get put out through Getter on Monday. We'll have it up and running over the weekend. I'm going to go ahead and put the videos together and everything. And we need to win this election. We need to win 2024. It's got to be done. We can't afford to have the Democrats steal anything. And we need to get the Congress and the Senate back. Okay, but we also need to enforce the law. And there's a law that's been broken, election fraud. And it was broken in 2020. All those people that committed that crime, and there's at least 300 Democrats be going to jail, especially some high-ranking ones. That needs to be done. That's the reason why they don't want Trump to win, because they know Trump is going to get a new Department of Justice. Okay? And the new Department of Justice is going to be for justice and for law and order. And then they're going to go get all the criminals. And 95% of them are Democrats. And then they're going to take all the illegal immigrants and send them back to their country. Because that's where they belong. They want to get new stuff. Get it in your own country. Okay? If your country's run by assholes and they're taking away your freedoms, then you may have a reason to seek asylum. But 95% of the illegals coming over wouldn't qualify for that. That's what Remain in Mexico is all about. All right. This is going to be the last of this type of show. The next show is going to be a live stream, which means you won't be, unless you know exactly when it's going to occur, You'll just have to see the videos will be stored through the live stream process up at Getter. And we're going to start trying to get more people involved in speaking and working on the campaign. We're going into campaign mode. I'm done making my speeches. I've been doing this for a whole year now. I've got enough video to put together a nice library of 75-minute videos to help educate you and get you in the right direction. And then, of course, you can always write to me at mike@wileyinfonet.com. We would love it if you went online to allianceoffreestates.com, look at the donation pages, sign up for a lifetime membership. It's $125. You get your militia shirt. Let us know what state that you want your militia shirt from. You can get this 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party silver dollar commemorative, and a copy of my book, The Diary of Hillary's Right-Wing Conspirator. And if you're running for office, you need to read this book, because in here you'll learn how to fight those that are going to try to step on you. And I'll sign it. So, and we'll send you some free I Am Trump buttons. We don't sell these things. We just give them away to those evil, extremist, MAGA people like me. I love you. Bye.
The beginning of that movie that matters. When those words are coming up on that screen, that's what matters. And those words say, in May 1980, Fidel Castro opened the harbor at Muriel, Cuba, with the apparent intention of letting some of his people join their relatives in the United States. Within 72 hours, 3,000 U.S. boats were headed for Cuba. It soon became evident that Castro was forcing the boat owners to carry back with them not only their relatives, but the dregs of his jails. Of that 125,000 refugees that landed in Florida, an estimated 25,000 had criminal records. Oh, yeah. That's what's up. That's what has happened in the United States right now. All this asylum-seeking lie, all this about refugees, no. What's happening is they're emptying out the dregs of their jails into the United States, into our communities. They're junking up our country. And yeah, we feel some kind of way about it because it's our country. That's right. It's our country. Yeah, Black History Month, the American descendants of slavery. And I want you to know, Brandon Johnson, I understand what Breakmore's saying about we still on the plantation, but what you're looking at right now, this is what a free Negro look like. And I'm telling you, we're going to get our city back, we're going to stand for our people, we're going to get them out of our communities, because they don't deserve to be there. Anytime they can't give us 3 lousy minutes of their attention while we sit here and watch y'all give them all kind of money, you watch us. We black out here. All right. And we gonna handle our business. You watch that. I'm a free black woman. All right. This is how we get down.
We're so angry here in Chicago, which has been a Democratic stronghold for most of its eternity. This year, we're working to turn Chicago red. We are so angry with Pritzker and with President Biden and with our mayor that we have decided that we're going to vote Republican this time around. Wow. That's just how angry we are. We are so angry that we are willing and going to turn our backs on the Democratic Party. I sat in some of those city council meetings and I looked at and I watched the aldermen totally disregard the voices of the people. And when I was going down there, we were coming down every week in the hundreds. And what we said did not matter. And when we were talking about changing Chicago's status as a sanctuary city, and keep in mind, we still have a right to do that. Just like Biden has the right to put forth an executive order to change the crisis at the border, Chicago's mayor has the right to put forth an executive order to change Chicago's sanctuary city.
Will he do it?
Of course he will not do it.